Respectable Chair, distinguished audience, Assalamu alaikum. It is my distinct privilege and honor to be talking to such an informed gathering. Much that I wanted to be present in person, certain unforeseen circumstances came in the way. I have been asked to talk on a subject that is quite vast in scope. Nonetheless, I will endeavor to cover it within the assigned time of 15 minutes. My talk will take the following broad sequence. Maritime strategy. Both experience and history of the last 100 years show that maritime strategy is a subset of a nation's grand strategy, since it touches on the whole range of activities and interests at sea. In its broadest sense, grand strategy is the comprehensive direction of power to achieve particular national goals. Within those terms, maritime strategy is the direction of all aspects of national power that relate to a nation's interests at sea. The Navy serves this purpose, but maritime strategy is not purely a naval preserve. It involves the other functions of state power that include diplomacy, the safety and defense of merchant trade at sea, fishing, the exploitation, conservation, regulation and defense of the exclusive economic zone at sea, coastal defense, security of national borders, the protection of offshore islands, as well as participation in regional and worldwide concerns relating to the use of oceans, the skies over the oceans and land under the seas. The fundamental focus of the military element in maritime strategy centers on the control of human activity at sea through the use of armed force in order to contribute to the broad ends established in a national maritime policy. There are two parts to this: establishing control against opposition and using control once it has been established. Let's take a look at the drivers of maritime strategy. The crucial factors that universally drive a maritime strategy include national interest, perceived threats, and military capabilities. Of no small concern is the national economy that underpins these factors. Advancements in technology and weapons, however, significantly contribute in shaping or reshaping strategies. The emergence of space and cyberspace as contested domains has increased political instability and conflict and has caused a surge in demand for naval forces. The Indo-Pacific is a new geostrategic formulation. It blends the established cartographic delimitations of the Indian Ocean with the geographic conception of the Asia-Pacific region. In the emerging geopolitical discourse, Indo-Pacific has now been transformed into a single strategic entity. The space extends from the western Indian Ocean along the coast of Africa to the western Pacific Ocean. The term in itself has, however, differing meanings and connotations for key maritime players. Let's move on to the main subject now. First, the US maritime strategy. In March 2015, the United States released a cooperative strategy for 21st century sea power. A joint work of US Navy, Marine Corps and Coast Guards, the strategy bears a distinctive expression: forward, engage, ready. It aims to refresh the strategy with the same title that was first released in 2007. Forward, engage, ready lists China's naval expansion into Pacific and Indian Ocean as one potential threat. The strategy projects placing approximately 60% of US Navy ships, aircraft and marine forces in the region by 2020. The core driving force behind CS-21R is to fight China's anti-access area denial strategy. Such a fighting, as it happens and when it happens, is structured around the initiative called Air-Sea Battle. CS-21R comprises two opening review sections. The first deals with the global security environment, including geopolitical changes and military challenges. The second articulates what the US maritime services need to do. This then merges into a complex discussion of their 7 missions and 5 functions, as shown on the view file. The striking shifts in the revised strategy from the previous 2007 are as follows. Defending the homeland comes first. It clearly makes the strategy a nation-centric rather than system-centric, as was the case in 2007's strategy document. There is a discernible shift towards war fighting and use of hard power. It emerges in the sequence of a new major function of maritime power, that of assuring all domain access, which now comes first in the list of US Navy's maritime functions and therefore inevitably looks as though it is the most important. There is an unadulterated message of winning the war at sea as core task of US Navy and US Marine Corps. A reduced emphasis on role of US maritime forces in protecting global trading system is also evident. There is unambiguous stress on the use of raw military muscle to protect US interests at sea. Humanitarian assistance and disaster response is now relegated from being one of the main functions of the US Navy to being a subset of the capacity to project power ashore. There is a desire to focus on the potentially transformational impact of challenges in the domains of cyberspace and the electromagnetic spectrum. Moving on to China. China's Blue Book for the Indian Ocean was released in June 2013. It was in Chinese language, though not an official policy document and only a report by a China-based think tank. It mirrors Beijing's supposed Indian Ocean interests. The book suggests that China's Indian Ocean policy is guided by its commercial and economic interests. Indian naval strategists have, however, drawn several inferences. If India or the United States impede the attainment of its objectives, China would not desist from resorting to confrontation. China would not permit any single power to dominate the Indian Ocean. China is prepared for jostling with such powers to establish fragile balance of power equilibrium. The Western Pacific, the near seas, is China's primary area of interest. The area involves China's defense perimeter from the coast hundreds of miles into the sea to what are termed first and second island chains. The military capabilities here are intended to provide with counter-intervention, or what the United States term anti-access and area denial. The concept embraces preventing an attack from the sea on China proper and its offshore island claims. The secondary area of interest, or far seas, is believed to be Indian Ocean region. As in the case of Western Pacific, events in the IOR bear strongly on China's national security interests. China's military strategy paper, published in May 2015, provides an overarching guidance for blueprinting and directing the building and employment of countries' armed forces. It identifies Asia Pacific as the region where the world economic and strategic center of gravity is shifting ever more rapidly. The US carries on its rebalancing strategy and enhances its military presence and its alliances in this region, notes the strategy paper. It also refers to hegemonism, power politics, and neo-interventionism as new threats. The interesting part, however, is in the section titled Force Development in Critical Security Domains. The traditional mentality that land outweighs sea must be abandoned, and great importance has to be attached to managing the seas and oceans and protecting maritime rights and interests, declares the document. Let's take a look at Indian Maritime Strategy. The Indian Navy's Maritime Security Strategy Document 2015, titled Ensuring Secure Seas, Indian Maritime Security Strategy, or IMSS 2015, is a precursor of India's evolving maritime strategic thought and its contemplated force posture. It constitutes an important spike in the wheel of New Delhi's politico-military strategy, or grand strategy. The document supersedes the 2007 strategy document titled Freedom to Use the Seas, India's Maritime Military Strategy. IMSS 2015 envisages India adopting a strategy of having more than one carrier task force as mobile bases together with sea-based nuclear deterrence. An extension of such an arrangement would involve the Navy's vision of developing itself as a major power in the Indo-Pacific region. Some analysis. IMSS confers on Indian Navy title of the net security provider. It shows an expression of intent of the Indian Navy to engage with the countries and shape the maritime environment in the region. 9 choke points identified in the Indo-Pacific region are divided, 5 in the Western Indian Ocean and 4 in the Eastern, with the force structure of the Eastern Fleet getting greater level of attention. There is stress on importance of control over 9 choke points as well as sea lines of communication. The document also expands India's maritime gaze into Indo-Pacific and Asia-Pacific regions to include southwestern theatre of Indian Ocean and Red Sea as the primary area of interest. The expanded area affects countries' maritime force posture internally as well. This includes Navy's cooperation with other 2 services. India also plans to increase its naval armada from the existing 137 combatants to about 200 major combatants by year 2020. A 3 carrier strike force is envisioned. In the nuclear domain, the precepts of India's nuclear deterrence, credibility, effectiveness and survivability are highlighted as imbibed in the sea-based segment, primarily SSBNs. Overall, IMSS points to having a permanent blue water naval presence in both the western and the eastern theatres of the Indian Ocean. Indian Navy has already started operations from its largest naval base at Karwar. This will help to secure command on the western Indian Ocean seaboard and the Indo-Pacific region more generally. Pakistan. For a country whose dependency on seaborne commerce exceeds 95% by volume, the importance of having a judicious maritime strategy underpinned by a balanced maritime policy cannot be overstated. Pakistan's first maritime policy was published in 2002. The policy is still in vogue. Although well deliberated for its time, it is now overdue for replacement. Significant changes have since occurred. Some of these are shown here. CPEC, raising prospects of increased commercial activity to and from Gwadar and within the region. There has been an expansion in maritime jurisdictional area of Pakistan. Revival of local ship recycling industry, increased risk to coastal zones, expansion in coastal infrastructure, expanding area of operations and responsibilities of Pakistan Navy. Military nuclearization in Indian Ocean. There has been a massive military build-up of naval forces in the area since 2001. New weapons and platforms have too been inducted in the region. India has already established overseas bases on Indian Ocean islands. And needless to say that the US-IN collaboration has now gone into strategic realm. In concluding, the statement of advisor to the Prime Minister on Foreign Affairs following the publication of IMSS 2015 in October 2015 would suffice. Few recommendations. Maritime and ocean affairs with emphasis on Indo-Pacific region be introduced as a separate subject in CSS examination syllabus. An exclusive module be also instituted in the training curriculum of prospective civil services officers. Exclusive desk that deals with Indo-Pacific issues be established at Foreign Office. An exclusive Senate Standing Committee on Maritime Affairs be instituted. Government may announce a national maritime vision sooner rather than later. Government may also consider formulating a comprehensive national shipping policy. Government and Pakistan Navy may expedite approval and release of the new national maritime policy and strategy, reportedly in advanced stage of approval. A credible answer to Indian nuclear submarines and strategic weapons at sea must be developed by Pakistan. Pakistan Navy may increase interoperability with plan and operational influence to cover Western Pacific. Pakistan Navy may issue long-awaited maritime doctrine of Pakistan. And finally, Pakistan's mainstream think tanks must engage naval, maritime community and country's bureaucracy more profoundly in trialogue on maritime and maritime security issues. I thank you all.